the groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous group, the groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous group, the groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous group, the groups that we're dealing with now.
Hey, happy football Sunday, everybody. This is Sunday Sessions with Scott and Swank. We have a special guest today, Ryan Thomas. Ryan, before we get started, you've been coming on the show a couple times. We love having you. But
I love being on. Thank you.
You've got your own thing going on. Before we get started, why don't you tell people where we could find you and what you actually what your podcast is all about?
Sure. So, of course, I appreciate you guys having me on again. I'm excited to dive into today's game. My show is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, where I dive into all things Bills and give my take on everything going on within one Bills drive. Whether it's a win or a loss, I'm always trying to get on right away and give my reactions to post-game stuff, pre-game, analysis, all that stuff. As well as any signings that the Bills might be making throughout the season. I also cover combat sports, mixed martial arts, boxing, so any UFC, pay-per-view, pre-fight stuff, post-fight reactions, boxing fights. And I also write for the hockeywriters.com. I cover the Buffalo Sabres. So I had my first article of the week drop today, and it was on Dylan Cousins. Did a feature on him, which was pretty fun. So you guys can check that out. And yeah, I'm a avid podcaster. I enjoy hopping on shows and meeting people with, meeting people like yourself and Swank here. We had a good time at the Rager, and I look forward to working with you guys more. It's been a fun time.
Well, we love having you. So welcome to the show. For those of you who haven't seen the show, this is a new thing Swank and I have been doing for 3 weeks now. It's called Sunday Sessions with Swank and Scott. And there's a reason for that, because I actually have my first beer of the day. It's usually a Sessions Ale right there. And Swank, you're a little under the weather, so you've got some tea going on there.
A little coffee just to warm my throat. I was
There we
I was
go.
out of work 2 days this week, and then played a 3-hour show Friday, and just roasted my vocal cords. But the show went really well. It just that last set for that last hour, I was like, bah.
Ripping your vocals even further
Yeah.
apart. No, so Fandemonium, welcome. Mafia, welcome. It's fun doing a pregame show because we can talk about what's happened in the last couple of days since the K-Gun report. And we get a lot of updates throughout the week. We get the our inactives and actives come up in about 15, 20 minutes. So we'll be able to see we can actually kind of game plan as couch coaches what we think the Bills are going to do with the actives that they brought in. But there's a lot of topics to talk about today. I let Swank and Ryan know that, we got a Gabriel Davis thing going on. We have an offensive line thing going on. We have a tough Colts offense that this defense, number one defense in the NFL, has to face. And I'm going to go, there's a lot of elephants in the room. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can talk about. And my favorite thing to talk about will be the running back situation.
Bro, I know I need to lose weight, but you don't have to make like those subtle fat jokes.
The elephant in the room. Oh, stop, Swank. You're fine. You're fine.
You're fine. We're all fine.
You're beautiful just the way you are.
It's just the way you are. It's bought and paid for, right, Swank?
Absolutely.
Bought and paid for. So, guys, lots to talk about. Let's talk about the running back situation and what we think the Bills are going to do this week. We saw how effective that three-headed monster was last week with Breida, Singletary, and Moss. They had 17 carries total, 98 yards, averaged 5.8 yards a carry. They had touchdowns. It was fun to watch. And because of that, I know, Ryan, you said this, Swank, myself, that running game opened up the play action pass. And the stat is in the proof is in the pudding with the 57% play action passing rate that Josh Allen had last week, top in the league for last week. But it was effective because Josh Allen had 366 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He was efficient. Do you think we're going to see this offense come with those 4 running backs, Tywan Jones included, because of special teams? Is this going to be something we see in and week out, or is it, again, always going to be a situational kind of situation? Anybody take this one?
I'll take it. Yeah, I hope so, because I think what we saw last week was something that we should have seen from weeks 3 to 10, however many weeks it was that Breida was out. And oddly enough, when we get this inactive report every Sunday morning prior to the game, and I'd see each and every week that Matt Breida was inactive, it became like a snowball effect of somewhat frustration, anger that, hey, this run game's not working with Singletary and Moss for whatever reason that may be. Let's shake things up a little bit. Let's offer something different to the offense, and offering something different in who we have on the roster is all we can do outside of Singletary and Moss. And Matt Breida was just that. I've heard so many Bills fans say, well, maybe we were saving him for later in the season. I can understand where that thought process comes from, but I also think myself, let's put the best players out on the field each and every week. If Matt Breida gives us the best chance to win, the best chance to have a solid running game, let's see more of him. I've always liked him. He's always been a very fast running back in this league, and I think he provides a new dimension for this offense, obviously opening up the play action, as you mentioned, and he's somebody that can really show his speed early in a game as well as late in the game. So I'm hoping to see Breida active today. I don't know about you guys, but that's something that I'm really keeping my eyes out on this morning.
100%, man. I think he adds that dimension that we've been looking for, just like you just said, just like the front office said in the beginning of the season when they picked him up, right? Like, the whole thing was like making the run game better, getting another dimension. They know what they had. Motor did all that work. Moss has stayed somewhat healthy this year. Like, I think it's working, and I think like it's not going to be a popular opinion, but I don't think it was totally broken last year. I think they had production. I think it was more again to play calling, and obviously the offensive line had its struggles. But I think today is going to prove a lot from whenever we get inactives here, which I think somebody just threw them in the comments, if that's official or not.
They're up already, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually around 11:30 those come out.
Yeah, they've been hitting like 11:45, like the last 2 weeks. Me and Scott did it. So, but yeah, I mean, if Breida's active, I think that shows a lot of where their head's at and what the game plan is going to be, right? I think, especially for a game like today, you don't have Spencer Brown. You know that they're going to try and run it down your throat on the opposite side of the ball. Like, you want to be able to control this stuff. A speedy guy that can get around the edge might be a benefit if DeForest Buckner is coming to crash in the right side of your line. You know what I mean? So I'm very interested to see. I hope Breed is active. I hope they go with what works. I hope Dable doesn't get too cute trying to overcompensate. Just play a solid game. That's all I wanted for last week. And last week they played a solid all-around game. It wasn't the flashiest game, but it also wasn't the stalest, most predictable game, right? So I don't know. I love it. I hope they keep him in. Mix it up.
I'm with you both. I hope Breed is in for sure. My only concern would be that I don't want Dable getting predictable with the running back situation. I watched the game back the other day and I saw he is pretty predictable with whatever running backs in there. And the linebackers and the safeties like a Poyer and a Hyde can figure this stuff out. Moss is in there, dude. They're doing a lot of ISO stuff inside the tackles with the one gap, 3, 4, 2, and 4. When Singletary's out there, they tend to open up the playbook a little bit because he can kind of do both a little bit. And then when Breed is out there, he was only out there 8 plays and they had him have 6 touches. So I'm calling Dable out. I don't want you to get predictable. Linebackers and safeties and defensive coordinators in the NFL can figure that out pretty quick. So every once in a while, have Breida run up the middle in the dive play. Every once in a while, toss the ball to Moss. That would be my biggest concern is that Dable gets predictable when those running backs in there. He's got to mix it up a little bit. And we do have the inactive list. Jake Kummerow, Cam Lewis, Tremaine Edmonds, and Bobby Hart are inactive. I think a lot of people were worried about that Bobby Hart. If you guys noticed,
myself included,
Bills week in and week out, they always put somebody on that active roster that they take off on a Sunday. It's been Cam Lewis in the past, and it's interesting. Tremaine Edmonds will miss a second consecutive game. 5 linebackers are active: Milano, Klein, Dodson, Matetovich, and Andre Smith. I have my theory about that, guys. 8 defensive linemen are active, and all 4 running backs will be active for the second consecutive week. There we go.
Well, that means I'm starting Matt Breida for fantasy. As crazy as that is, I'm desperate for running back help. So hey,
do it.
Whatever.
So
2 TDs last week.
What do you need, guys? Yeah, right. He did, and I mean, if they can get him in the offense more frequently, he'll definitely add the touches, and he always has that breakaway potential.
Sure.
But without a line, you're not going to have a running game. We know Spencer Brown is out this week, potentially out the Thursday night game, just because of the way things are falling together. I put out a post on Twitter and Facebook, asking people, what do they think that right side of the line is going to look like? We saw what it looked like against the Jaguars with Spencer Brown out and even Knox was out, and it didn't look good. Ford was at the right guard. Darrell Williams was at the right tackle. It's going to be interesting to see if the Bills show up with that same scheme or if they change it up a little bit. The post I put out, majority of the fans want to see Tommy Doyle at that right tackle and keep Darrell Williams at that right guard. Knox is in there. You can help him out with blocking. You can make sure the line shifts to the right to make sure that he's taken care of. But I don't know. That rookie, he hasn't been in there for a reason. He's been in there every once in a while. What do you guys think? You think Tommy Doyle deserves a chance at that right tackle position? I think, and tell me who you think what that right side is going to look like.
I have a little bit of a different approach, I guess, to it. I think it's okay if Tommy goes in, gets his reps. I think I said that last week too. And I know you're a big Tommy Doyle guy. I want to see what's up. I know he got blew up that one play that he was in last week, and everybody's been giving him everybody's been giving him junk about that. But also, I mean, come on, give me a break. It's one snap. I think that I want to keep Darrell Williams at guard, no matter what. I think that's the best spot for him to be in. I think swapping him every week isn't productive. I'd rather have the majority of the line like short up and then one hole to plug, as opposed to swapping, having kind of one guy that's playing out of position and another guy that's fresh and blow up the whole 50% of the line. For me, like, I'd be okay with Doyle. I think, and I was listening to something about this on the radio this morning, I agree with it. I like Bates. Like, I think Bates is a solid player, and I think the reason that they haven't been using him is because he's the backup center.
He's one hit to the head away from having to spell Mitch Morris at the center position.
Sure. So I don't care. I
Put the best player in, right?
You got to have your best players out there. You can't play scared.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy that can snap the ball. Brother Bill this week, by the way, had this awesome tweet that said that you should just put Reed Ferguson in and have Josh Allen take shotgun snaps from 15 yards back.
Hey, I'd be all about that. That'd be fun.
He doesn't need to do any drops. He's already ready to fire.
That guy is so funny, man. But I was like, it's like, it's laughable, but also like,
like, you might be onto something there.
So I think on that side, I'm okay with Tommy. I think Cody, man, he's a one misstep away from getting benched and possibly cut to me. Like, I don't think that you give him a whole game to try and sort himself out. You know what I mean? I think he's had his opportunities. I think if you put him out there and that sideline starts getting blown up, like, I think that what makes this game different than a couple weeks ago is that you got Knox back, right? So, and he's more of a blocking tight end. Maybe you can move him around, do some help. You might see some more like heavy packages, maybe less like four wides. You know what I mean? And you're going to put like Moss back there to help out blocking too. I think that's like a huge factor for Josh Allen. I'd rather have Josh Allen have more time with less targets to throw to than no time with 5 targets to throw to, right? Like, so I kind of hope that they go with that approach. Whoever it is out there, and then throw them some help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I like the fact that you mentioned it, and you go back to last week too, when there were glimpses. There were moments, especially in the Jacksonville game, throughout the Jacksonville game, where their offensive line just looked like a sieve, with Josh Allen dropping back, or even in shotgun. And I think whether or not, no matter who they have out there, I think the key to the game today in the passing game for the Bills is for Josh Allen to just get the ball out of his hand as quickly as possible. Get it out of his hand as quickly as possible, meaning whether it's to Beasley, whether it's to Knox. Those are 2 players today that I expect to have a real big day, especially in wake of what's going on with their offensive line. It's very unfortunate that Spencer Brown isn't out there, because I think he has been an X factor. He's been a solid right tackle. Darrell Williams, I'd rather have him at right guard. And Cody Ford, I don't know what to do with Cody Ford at this point, whether it's right guard or right tackle. I think we're all in agreement here that you kind of just put your hands up and hope for a better play out of him, especially today. But I hope that John Feliciano can kind of get back to where he was last year. In moments last year, he was pretty dominant, especially in the run game. That's something that we have to keep our eye out on as well. And I'd really look for Josh Allen to get the ball out of his hand quick to Beasley, to Knox. Those are 2 guys that I really expect to have big days today, especially with the line situation the way it is.
I mean, we're playing a 26th ranked pass defense. So Josh Allen should be able to light it up. It's whether or not he has the protection. And I am agreeing with you both. And I think the Fandemonium and the Mafia all agree with you guys. We both saying keep Darrell Williams at right guard. And Swank, to your point, let's not mix and match 2 or 3 people. Let's just put everybody where they belong and then add that one piece. And I think Tommy Doyle would be a great addition over there. Like I said, give him the help he needs. And I like how you brought up that Swank's talking about 11 personnel. I'm not going to go into detail what the hell that means. Basically, when you hear those numbers, the first number is a running back, the second number is the amount of tight ends. The Colts, let's go to defense now, guys. The Colts have the 4th ranked offense. And I was looking up their stats. They have an awesome run game. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Naheem Hines both have over 200, not both, but combined over 200 yards, combined over 1,400 total yards. I mean, the Colts rely on these guys a lot. But what I noticed is that the Colts run the 12 personnel quite a bit, actually a third of their plays. They have 1 running back out there at all times, and they always have 2 tight ends. And I think that's why I mentioned with the active list, why the Bills are bringing so many linebackers to this game. I think for the first time in a while, the Buffalo Bills like to run the 4-2 defense and nickel defense. We might actually see a third linebacker out there playing at a 4-3 defense. I think in order to stop this offense, you need to bring 7 people into the box, whether it's Taron Johnson, who's great at run support, or Poyer coming down and have 8 people in the box to stop that potent run. Um, I think that that'd be key. And you have to stop the run. And then if that happens, obviously Trey White's going to be matched up with Pittman. Pascal's going to be out there with Levi Wallace with a safety deep. So I am very excited to see what kind of defense Leslie Frazier brings. But I think bringing those linebackers and 8 defensive linemen I just saw as well, I think they're planning on loading that box up and making them and forcing them to pass against them.
I like that a lot. I like that thought. I actually envisioned it as you were saying it, which last week, shout out to him, and he's going to have to step up big this week too. AJ Klein, I thought he played really well last week, filling in for Tremaine Edmonds, and he's going to have to do it again. I believe you said Tremaine Edmonds isn't active for this game, right? Yep. I think that's, yeah. Yep. So AJ Klein's really going to have to step up again, and I thought he did really well last week given the situation. But mainly too, like obviously the key to this game for Buffalo defensively, this defense can take games over. This defense is arguably the best in the NFL. I think it's the best in the NFL as it stands right now. And if we can stop Jonathan Taylor, there's no stopping Jonathan Taylor. I'll correct myself. If we could just contain Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor is one of the best backs in the league right now, and he's got the power, he's got the speed, he can block. He's somebody that I think can take over a game in his own right. But containing Jonathan Taylor is going to force a quarterback that you have no idea what you're going to get week in, week out from Carson Wentz. There's weeks where he looks really, really good, that old MVP caliber Carson Wentz, or there's weeks where he looked like the Carson Wentz that got traded from Philly. And this, to me, is a game that I want to see the Buffalo Bills play some old school smash mouth defense football, smashing Carson Wentz into the ground and forcing this Indianapolis Colts offense to over rely on the run. Contain Taylor early, force Wentz to make some plays, force the Colts to pass, force Wentz to extend plays, and hit him. I think that's a real key to the game that I anticipate Leslie Frazier dialing up with a 4-3 hybrid to what McDermott likes to run with that nickel out there.
And we know Taron Johnson's a great running defender.
Right.
So that's advantage us. Swank, what are you thinking, my friend?
I 100% agree with that Thomas take right there. I think I put Carson Wentz, and if you've been on a viewer of the show or the K-Gun or whatever, the K-Gun, if you're a fan of 24/7 and you've heard any of my takes, it's this specific group of quarterbacks that have gotten a lot of praise that haven't done enough. I think that they get away with being considered good quarterbacks without having a specific resume to back it up, right? I always said that about Phillip Rivers. I thought Phillip Rivers, yes, he got a cannon, could never win playoff games. He could never win the big one. He never did enough. They didn't have a team enough around him, all that stuff. They threw Sam Darnold in that in New York. I think Cutler was another one of those guys. There's just a pocket of people, quarterbacks that get away with this. And I think that Carson Wentz is this now journeyman beat up quarterback that has always gotten the benefit of the doubt and really is so inconsistent and has never really proven that he is this elite kind of quarterback. I think he's got his best shot with Frank Reich. But I think with him, just like you're saying, if you can slow down Jonathan Taylor and force Carson Wentz to make good throws, I think that is a great defensive strategy because I don't think Carson Wentz can
going to make those great throws.
Yeah, if he's got pressure in his face, and again, we say it almost every week, if you rattle a quarterback's cage, I don't care who it is, he's going to make a mistake. I think the break of sunshine through all this, right? Because they're a solid team. They're a well-coached team. They got a great running game, and Carson Wentz is doing enough. To me, he's Mac Jones 2.0 right now, right? He's managing a great game and like.
Well, you think he's
whatever.
better quarterback than Brady? Is what you're saying?
I think right now Carson Wentz is the best quarterback of all time, second only to Mac Jones. Um,
We'll get
No.
into that in a minute.
yeah,
Oh, for sure.
but yeah, man, I think look at that pick six, the left-handed pick six that Carson Wentz threw 2 weeks ago in his own end zone, trying to make a Josh Allen play, right? And I'll debate this until I die. If that was Josh Allen, he would have got way more blown up for it than Carson Wentz did, right? But I think that Carson Wentz having as many years as he has in the league, not full seasons, right? Because he's usually hurt or something usually happens or there's a transition happening or whatever. With all that experience, he's still making those kind of decisions. Like that's still ingrained in him.
moves.
And I don't think it's like the hero ball, I got to do anything to win kind of decision. I think it's a frantic decision, right? So you can compare those two things side by side with Josh Allen. So if you can rattle his cage, he'll definitely make a bad choice. And I don't know. You had a quarterback last week who should have went in the first round that made 4 bad choices, I think, to 4 of our cornerbacks. So
Self-proclaimed, right? Self-proclaimed.
yeah,
Should have gone in the first
self-proclaimed,
round.
yeah. Would rather throw a pick than take the sack.
Yeah.
right?
Could have went first overall. Remember that little?
first
That
overall.
was.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
exactly.
god!
Not just the first round.
That didn't age well. That's for
No.
sure.
Right.
Swank, I agree with you. It is in the whole terms of Carson Wentz and throughout his whole career. In terms of Carson Wentz, he's somebody that when you hit him, he gets rattled to a point where I think he gets rattled mentally, but I think physically his body breaks down pretty easily. His body shuts down as far as what he asks of his body. It won't do back. It won't answer the question. You know, he's at that point where he's had some really bad injuries over the course, and he's a young quarterback still. He's not, in his 30s, 35, 36. He's not Matt Ryan. He was drafted, 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a quarterback that I envision this Bills defense as a defense that can hit him, can rattle him, can force him into mistakes. And with our secondary testing Carson Wentz to say, hey, Carson, go throw on Trey White, go throw on Micah Hyde, go throw on Jordan Poyer. Good luck with that, because now you want to talk about guys that have deserved credit and are getting the credit. Those are the 3 guys that are actually getting the credit that they finally deserve after 4 or 5 years of being here. So shout out to those guys. I think they're going to be very important in today's game.
It's funny, like, you making that point, right? That the 3 best, like, defensive backs that we have been overlooked by the league still, right?
For sure. Yep.
But with those to us, right, as Bills fans, like, they're superstars, and we've seen them be superstars for years.
Every week.
So if within the fan base, those 3 have been great, how does Levi Wallace feel right now? Because he's playing, like, probably the best ball of his career this year, I'd say.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And he's in a strong, like, DB room that they've all been in the same system for the last couple of years, and he gets the short end of the stick. But that dude is doing everything they're asking. And now, now you say, like Hyde and Poyer and Trey, I think Taron Johnson's getting more accolades than Levi Wallace is right now.
Taron hasn't allowed a touchdown pass against him either. So they're all up on that train.
I don't know. It's an elite defensive backfield. And, I think right now that chip is the thing that's, like, really driving the whole defensive force, right? They were trying to find that one thing, and I think that's it. They're number 1 in the league, like, defensively number 1 defense in the league, and still get no love. So,
Yep.
Right.
Beautiful.
So if we can come together, and I alluded to before with that 4-3 defense, which I think we're going to run, it might be a blessing in disguise, I'm thinking, because I do think that they're going to have to depend on Wentz, because I think the Bills are going to come in with a strategy to beat this run game. A.J. Klein came from the Saints, who had a pretty good defense, and he played middle linebacker a couple times. Demario Davis was over there and all that stuff. So it might be a blessing in disguise to have a 4-3 defender linebacker out there playing today rather than Tremaine Edmonds, who's used to the 4-2 and nickel. And you have Matetovic, Dodson, or even Milano on the other side. And we saw what Klein was able to provide with the 2 tackles for loss and a couple more he would have had if he didn't miss a couple tackles. maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Our defensive ends, I believe, are going to be F.A. Obata and Russo because of their wingspan alone. You want to take up double teams with Ed Oliver and Star Lotullier. Now you got these defensive ends where if you're going to try to get around the edge, they've got that wingspan to get you. I think our defense is made for this kind of offense that we're facing. And when you do force Wentz to pass the ball, he makes mistakes, you get in his face, it could be a very, very long day for him. Very long day. And I'm excited to watch that.
I think it's the key. I think it's the key to winning this game, and that's how I envision us winning the game. Is our offense, I should say, is obviously what it is. We have Josh Allen, we have Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. We know who we have there, but the offense is playing. They're finding a different identity to what they had last year. They're still in the process of doing that. The defense knows who they are. The defense knows that they are. There he is. The defense. I like that salute to service hoodie. I want to get one of those.
Yeah,
I got to get one.
Sweet.
Yeah,
but
like the defense. Yeah, it did. The defense knows who they are. So I think that's a key to this game and many others along the way. This defense has been fantastic, and I just don't see it going any other way in terms of how we can win. We could rout this team defensively if we do what I think we can do. And to what Swank's saying.
And what a statement that would be, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we came in and took care of this team, like, yeah, we had to bounce back. We had to wash the Jets. We did. Now if you come in and, oh, boy, this is like one of those 11 teams that have 5 wins in the AFC, right? If you come in and you wash them and you handle business at home, there's no question. Everybody forgets about the Jags game. Like, okay, it was a blip on the radar. These guys are legit, And I think that's what needs to happen.
And don't let that 5-5 record confuse you. They are a good team. They're 4th ranked offense. And if their defense can start putting things together, they can be a pretty good defense with Denarius Leonard there, man in the middle linebacker position. He's an animal, and he's active today, so he could cause some problems. This is a really good 5-5 team, a good playoff team. I think they'll make the playoffs. But this is a tough game, and this is for sure the game that you need to sweep away the Jets. You got the Jaguars game is over, like you were saying, Swank. Those are both 1-win, 2-win teams. This is a legit AFC contender that we're competing with. Like you said, the AFC's got a lot more wins than the NFC does. The AFC is looking tough this year. But you see Josh Allen back there. I'm excited to watch the game. I'm getting kind of antsy already. Fandemonium, you guys are kicking butt. You guys are conversing in the comments. Love it. We love the join the conversation. We love the conversation that goes on during our show, and it's something that I constantly look at the thing to see how often you guys are saying stuff. There is a topic I wanted to talk about before we ended the show. And unfortunately, fans, this is only a 30, 45-minute show, but we can extend it, right? This is Gabriel Davis. 3 catches, 3 targets, quietest 100-yard game, like Swank said on the K-Gun report last week, that I think a Bills receiver has ever had. But he's doing what he did last year, except without the targets, right? The toe drag swag, getting open. His run blocking is, bar none, one of the top in the NFL. So has this guy, with us bringing these 4 running backs in, right? Like I said, I include Tywan Jones. Does he earn the number 2 spot? Has he earned that yet? I mean, Emmanuel Sanders is not putting up huge numbers, but he's putting up pretty consistent numbers. There's a couple games where he hasn't had any catches. But as Gabriel Davis, do you think with the Bills bringing more running backs, and like Swank said, let's not have so many wide receivers out there. Let's drop it down a little bit to 11 personnel maybe. Do you think Gabriel Davis deserves that number 2 spot yet?
Man, that's a good question. It's tough because the weeks, week to week this year, you wonder why Gabriel Davis hasn't been a factor like via targets. And then you go back and watch those games as you do, Scott, and as I do once they're over, and you say to yourself, mainly because of this offensive line, it hasn't allowed Allen to survey the field like he was able to last year and find Davis, because they love to put him out deep towards the sideline, on these corner kind of, routes towards the sideline. And I think that, Emmanuel Sanders has been pretty solid for us. But I think what made the offense so good last year was the diversity that it had with Diggs, with Davis, with Beasley. They were able to get all those guys targets. I think they have to get back to doing that, and the way to get back to doing that is by targeting Davis more. So in this game in particular, The Colts have a decent defense, but they do not have a good secondary. They do not have a secondary full of depth. So moments in this game, I think we will see the Bills try to expose the Colts defense with mismatches. And Gabriel Davis, not only is he a good run blocker, he's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, wide receiver on the team outside of Diggs. So I'd like to see Gabriel Davis out there more and getting targeted in this game. Maybe for this game, he'd be used as that number 2. Moving forward, if he passes this audition as the number 2 receiver in this game, I would be more than willing to give it to him. He was phenomenal last year. I think he's one of those players. They say the football season doesn't start until November. Gabriel Davis could be like the November, December MVP for the Buffalo Bills if they feature him in the offense more.
I mean, he's creeping up. Emmanuel Sanders played 35 plays to Gabriel Davis's 30 and last week, and Gabriel Davis was out there a significant amount more than Beasley was. So we're seeing his participation coming up a little more gradually. Right. And I love that take. He might be that guy that we need, that possession wide receiver when the weather starts getting bad and you need to start depending on these post corner routes or, the guy that's going to make it so somebody's has to come off Diggs. It may be time, and we'll find out today.
I think the phrasing of the question is very, very well put, but also leaves a lot of room, right? Does he deserve it? I think he does deserve it. Does the stage call for it right now? Do you want to bench Emmanuel Sanders for him? I don't know. I mean, with all the production he's had all year, and maybe not as of late, but they've been spreading the love around. I mean, Stephon Diggs, again, he's had a similar year to last year, but it doesn't seem like it, right?
Nope.
It seems like way slower. It doesn't seem like some games he doesn't get targeted and all this stuff. But his numbers, man, he's creeping up on 1,000 yards pretty quick. So I think what they're doing with Gabe is the same kind of deal as they did with Ed Oliver, the same kind of deal they did with AJ Epinesa, where they're letting him dip his toe in. Last year was more out of necessity. This year it's we got all these toys to play with, man, and we can mix it up. Again, I think that falls back on the offensive coordinator, how you distribute and how you mix it up and where everything goes. And the line, obviously, not giving him enough time. That was a great take. But I think that right now he goes out and he does what he needs to do when his number's called. And I think he's doing that with the idea in mind that next year when Emmanuel Sanders' contract's up, he's the guy.
Yeah, because Emmanuel Sanders said he's just playing 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect situation, Swank.
Yeah.
Gabriel Davis, he's playing that role, and he's not complaining. Emmanuel Sanders is someone, a wily veteran that I don't think he would care if Gabriel Davis took over the snaps because of how much of a team and how that camaraderie is in the locker room. Whatever works. Remember, Emmanuel Sanders says he just wants to win games and make it to the Super Bowl. So if that means Gabriel Davis is taking over the snaps, it is what it is. So I think it's a perfect situation for Gabriel Davis to keep coming up in the ranks and eventually taking over for that number 2. If not next year, then maybe sooner.
Well, how about how long ago did you call out that Emmanuel Sanders jet sweep? Remember in the offseason when we picked him up, you were like, well, your boy does that, Isaiah McKenzie does that, but Emmanuel used to take those and blah, blah, blah. And he's a quick guy. And Jesus, week 9 or 10 or whatever,
they finally bring it out.
And it busts for a big gain.
24 yards and 2 yards short of a touchdown.
There's different ways you can line them up to get them the ball. It doesn't have to necessarily be that way. And I think you can shell game it around, and you can. That's where I would like to see Dable get more creative. Is disguising things, not necessarily trying to be cute with oh, it's 3rd and 8, here comes a QB sneak nobody thinks is coming, I'd rather he
they got 11 people in the box. You think they're gonna sneak it?
Yeah, they never suspect this.
Please, no more quarterback sneaks. Just for my psyche.
Yeah,
please, no more.
They say smoking cigarettes will take years off your life, but watch Josh Allen do a QB draw 3rd and long. Yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily Emmanuel Sanders has to get benched to get Gabe his touches. I think that they can move it around and make it kind of, I guess, the way it is. But Jesus, man, that catch on the sideline,
He's done it so many times. He's just
He
so
did it
reliable
last year
there.
twice
Yeah,
against these Colts.
right. Yeah, he arguably saved that game last
Yeah.
year. Like that was two clutch moments in that game. He caught both balls, and it was like the last second that Josh could uncork it, and he made those plays. I mean,
swagged them both, man.
yeah. So, to Swank's point too, like there's so much of a season left. We still have a lot of football left. This offense hasn't even fully achieved its full potential. I think we could all agree to that, especially in comparison to last year. Even while comparing last year's offense compared to this year's offense, our offense last year had no run game. Our offense this year has no run game. So something's got to give. We got to make that better. But I think there's players that we haven't even seen achieve their full potential this year. Heading into year 2, like Gabe Davis, obviously I think Beasley has had some really slow weeks that I hope, Allen can get back to hitting him. And I think that today is a good day to do that. And Stephon Diggs, to Swank's point, he's had like the quietest productive season, but it was just in comparison to last year. It was like they were feeding him constantly, where this year there's been weeks where he hasn't really been fed. So it's kind of odd to have the amount of talent we have offensively to say that our offense hasn't really achieved the production that we thought they would. I think we need to make that happen in the last, 7-8 weeks of this season by mixing things up, by featuring guys like Davis far more than they have.
Yep.
Well, I think that's exciting too, because like, think about all those years where we had one playmaker on offense, where it's like all those years that it was like Freddie and Stevie, and then nothing. It's really great to have all this and to have like all the options. But I could see how it gets a little overwhelming. It has to be overwhelming. Like when you drop back in the pocket and you have 3 seconds to be like, okay, do I throw it to this playmaker, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, hopefully he's not thinking that way. Hopefully he's going through his reads and making the correct reads. But
just throw it to whoever's open. That's it.
Diggs is out there somewhere. All right, guys. Hey, awesome show. I'd like to do a real quick score prediction. Mine may be different than what it was before on the Kagan Report, because obviously, some of these things come in with the actives and inactives and all that stuff. Score prediction, and what's the big thing that you think is going to happen today as far as maybe an X factor or bold prediction? So I'll start with you there, Swanky.
All right. I'm thinking that we're not going to get into the 30s this week. I think we'll have a nice solid 28. And I think that we are going to put them Colts right there at about 17.
Okay.
So 28-17 us. I think the X factor is going to be the linebacker and tackle play. If we can at least stunt that running back production, then I think that we'll have a pretty good shot of winning this game. Offensively, bold prediction, I'm going to say that the running game does what it needs to do today and has combined over 130 yards for all 3 running backs.
There you go. That's a good day.
I would really enjoy that, Swank. That would be very nice. That'd be rare.
Ryan, I would thoroughly enjoy that.
I would thoroughly enjoy it.
I'm so bold.
You got Marshawn Lynch in the building, leading the charge. Let's see some physicality in the run game. Shout out to Marshawn Lynch, Buffalo Bills. I would have liked to have seen him play here longer. That's another talk for another day. But
yeah, you ain't kidding.
But I think this game will be 28-10. The Buffalo Bills have the best defense in the NFL. We know who we got. We got White. We got Poyer. We got the jersey that Scott's wearing, I believe, Micah Hyde. We know who's out there. We know who can take over for this defense. And I think that the X factors are not only those 3 guys. Those guys have been doing it every single week for us. But I think defensively, pressure Carson Wentz. I want a big day from AJ Epinesa. Effie Obata has been wreaking havoc too. Shout out to him as well. Ed Oliver. This is a big game for Ed Oliver and Star Latuile. I think Ed Oliver is going to be right in there as far as stopping Jonathan Taylor, as well as creating that up the middle pressure to allow the defensive ends to kind of flush the pocket and force Wentz to make some decisions that he doesn't want to make, or crack Carson Wentz, because I think that's the key to victory in this game. I'm going with a solid defensive win by the Bills, shutting it down on defense, and the offense finding a little bit of their identity that they need to find, whether it's a balanced offensive attack, more run, less pass, 60-40, pass to run ratio in this game. But yeah, that's how I see it going down.
I like it.
All right. I got make it quick, 31-17. I think it's a 2-touchdown win. And defensive line, I'm putting it all on the defensive line. The Colts rely, like I said, on those 2 tight ends. And they do what they call dual blocks. So they like to double team. And unfortunately for the Colts, they're going against one of the best double team defensive tackles in the league in Letoulier. And with what Ed Oliver's been doing lately, he can take that double team as well. So with F.A. Obata and Russo on the outside, I think you'll see those two the majority of the time with their wingspans and the way that they can create some havoc preventing the outside run. I think the X factor will be those defensive line. And my bold prediction is that those 4 alone are going to wreak some havoc. I think they're going to create some problems and put that defensive line. The NFL will put notice on them for sure that what the hell they're doing there is pretty havoc wreaking.
I agree.
So I can't, that's what we love about doing the show there, Ryan, is by the time we're done, we got a half an hour, 45 minutes of the game time.
Yeah.
I mean, as you can see, I'm starting to move back and forth because I get really anxious during games. I stand right there with my hands crossed.
I do too.
Oh, man. But guys,
Scott rocks like this and Jared rocks like this.
Yeah. And Swank rocks like this. Guys, Pandemonium Mafia, thank you so much for joining us today. We love doing this pregame football stuff. It's 48 degrees and rainy, 60% chance of rain there in Buffalo. We know Josh Allen is able to throw the ball, rain or shine. We know he played in Wyoming. He does a great job in the elements. It's Carson Wentz, and that running game, is wonderful against these bad weather games. So it's going to be a fun game to watch for sure. Hopefully we're talking on Tuesday on a K-Gun Report every Tuesday, 8 p.m. About another victory going 7-3. We need to win this AFC matchup. I believe the Colts definitely are an AFC playoff caliber team, and we need to slap them in the mouth, keep our foot on the gas, and do what the Bills do. Number 1 defense, and that the offense needs to score a lot of points. Guys, I can't wait. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us. Swank.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Swank is always my friend. I know you got a cold, take some vitamin C. And Bills Mafia, those that are at the game, cheer loud so we can hear you. And those that are at home, stay warm and let's go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
This is a dangerous group.